Well, so this is George DeWars again. I think I keep forgetting to identify myself at the beginning of each chapter. I may have to re-record everything because of that, but oh well. This is the 6th chapter of the book. It's the 5th of the 8 facts. It's the first of the 4 facts that emerge if you really get it, what's going on when any alcoholic, addict, whatever, says those magic words, F it, and takes the first whatever they're addicted to. And there is a picture that goes with it, and this is the picture, which actually is a pretty good illustration. It's not too hard to understand. That's the picture. And the caption reads, in some circumstances, we have gone out deliberately to get drunk, feeling ... That's on page 37 of the AA Big Book. It's describing the deliberate relapse, what I call I used to call it the white knuckle relapse, which is pretty descriptive, but it's even more precise to call it the expletive or the cursing relapse. And this first of the facts, the title for this chapter is On the Fine Art of Quitting. So, how do I know what people mean when they say F it and pick up the first drink / drug / whatever? I ask them and they tell me. Imagine I am there, right as you say F it, just before you use what you use. Not to stop you, not to judge you. Just to understand, what do you really mean by F it right at that moment? Hundreds of group brainstorms, thousands literally at this point, of people, about 4 decades now, and one of the translations given by virtually every group is, I quit, or I give up. My name is George, and I'm a quitter. Who would want to stand in a room full of strangers and declare that? Far gentler to say, I'm an alcoholic, addict, whatever. The only reason to spell out this stinky truth here is to help you understand. Before the I quits have a chance to disguise themselves behind the F it's again. Let me reread that sentence. In fact, both of them. The only reason to spell out this stinky truth here is to help you understand. Before the I quits have a chance to disguise themselves behind the F it's again. As it happens, I am somewhat of an expert on the subject of quitting, whether it is quitting or being unable to quit. Have been since before my first drink / drug / whatever. You'll notice I haven't told you what my whatever is. Allow me to share 2 qualifications to establish my street cred as a quitter. First, I was a bedwetter. You may or may not have some idea the freedom I feel to write that for public consumption. Believe me, I did not, quote, come out, unquote, as a bedwetter in high school, when I was still doing it. Or in college, when I was miserable but no longer controlled by this particular lack of control. I still have childhood memories of things my parents tried to get me to stop. Alarm clocks, washing my own sheets, fluid restrictions, and that old standby, shame. I also remember my friend Larry, both of us about age 9, and him standing at the foot of my bed trying to get me to come out and play. Me, floating in a lake of urine created by rubber sheet and sagging mattress, pretending to be sick and hoping so desperately he didn't smell my shame. Just as vivid is the memory of Larry's grinning mother asking me later, "Are you still doing that?" Good thing that resentments are against my religion. Years went by, and I would have months of being dry, only to relapse yet again. I developed a sense of shame that is even now only partly relieved, and a fear of smelling like pee that spiked when we were given lithographed hands out in class. They were printed on that old purple ink that must have been made with ammonium or alcohol. Was it me or the handout? And my sister told me once in high school that she had told her friends about my secret. I was only okay after that because no one ever brought it up. To this day, I know when something has triggered my shame about almost anything. I have a dream that night in which I've wet the bed again. I have failed once more to quit and stay quit. Second, an unfortunate habit of quitting in broad daylight when I was wide awake. And the second qualification led to events that seemed to bring both problems to an end. It was January, my junior year of high school, and I was not yet 16. That birthday was to come a few weeks later, 10 days after the Beatles rocked the Ed Sullivan Show in about every living room in America for the first time. We had a track meet on a 12-lap indoor track in Winnipeg, Manitoba. I was entered in the open half mile against college guys, along with Bill. No, not Bill W. Bill was a Canadian who went on to become a highly respected brewmaster. Fancy that. Anyway, for my part, I was more focused on not being humiliated by urine than on being glorified by victory. Before we even left home, I grimly locked in my willpower. I set my mind and I kept it set all day long, on the train, at the hotel, during the meet. Willpower worked, for once. I did not soak that hotel bed or the berth on either train. And I even came in third, in a time I still remember, 2:05.6. That's a half mile. Not bad for a 15-year-old on a wooden track. My grandson beat that time recently. Of course, I had to let him know he did it on a 4-lap outdoor track and was two years older than I had been during my race. My higher power has apparently not seen fit to relieve me of a certain amount of unhealthy competitiveness. At the time of the meet, 2 people reacted to my performance. My father, who was the coach, plot thickens, gave my shoulder a rough squeeze, visibly to me, gritting his teeth and saying he was proud of me. Only time I remember that, ever. And one of my teammates told me I should have won and that I had more ability than Bill the brewmaster. Well, he only came in second. Who came in second by an elbow to a college guy. The thing I remember most vividly is my own lack of feeling as we kicked for the finish line. No joy or pain or hunger. Mostly numb and detached. Still had to get through another night in the hotel, another sleeping berth on the way home, still white-knuckling it. That was certainly the last decent race I ever ran, and one of the last ever. I gave up track that spring when I also gave up bedwetting. My father hit on a simple strategy that has worked to this day over 50 years later. He threatened to send me to a psychiatrist. No way I was revealing my secrets to a professional mind reader. Plus, there was the urgent necessity to abstain from bedwetting if I wanted to go away to college. Not sure who wanted that more, my professor father or me. I would like to think the energy of the Beatles helped me change my ways that spring. Can't really make a scientific case for it, but it could not have hurt that my father hated them as much as he hated Elvis. There is, however, an odd bladder connection to the Beatles. I recently read it online, a 50th anniversary anecdote. It came from a theater manager who put on early Beatles concerts in the United Kingdom. He recalls the overwhelming smell of urine afterwards, a symptom of hysteria from the mostly female crowd. My sociologist dad thought that Beatlemania was group masturbation. But who pisses during sex or masturbation? I mention this only because it occurs to me, and My editor has apparently not been able to convince me to take it out. Guess who the editor was? Writing things down does help you see things you have not seen before. Before writing this post, I had not connected my two kinds of quitting problem: the desperate necessity to quit wetting my own bed and the embarrassing tendency to quit middle distance races before or during the race. Winnipeg was actually an exception, one of several bright spots in an otherwise gloomy career. When I was between the ages of 12 and 16, my pattern was simple: get in good shape, run a good race or two, then choke or drop out or develop a mysterious injury for the rest of the season. I would run brilliantly in practice and then feel like I had lead in my bones during the actual race. And I ran as if I did. Pretty obvious performance anxiety problems, symptoms I should say, coach/daddy issues galore, older brother of the track star and daddy's fave, blah, blah, blah. But I'm pretty sure there were moments in or before races when I snapped. I don't know if I said F it back then, but I sure felt it. Even now it puzzles me. Why does someone keep humiliating himself in public while working so hard to hide nighttime shame? Anyway, at virtually the same time, I quit both. There's a direct connection between my two struggles with quitting and the moment of relapse. See if this fits what the Big Book calls the state of mind that precedes a relapse into drinking. That's a quote. Or anything else. Fantasy. As a boy, I would lie in bed, half asleep, imagining I was already standing at the toilet, only to wake up and find out, too late, that I had not been. If only someone had told my bladder. The physical fact was that I shared a third floor bedroom in a cold Pennsylvania farmhouse. The bathroom was on the second floor. This drowsy fantasy was clearly a wish, like One Won't Hurt and the others. Meanwhile, the track fantasies were all about winning. When the real situation felt so different from the fantasy, I tanked. It would appear that the price of my freedom from both struggles was to give up the fantasy of how I wish things to be. If I'm in bed, I cannot pee without humiliation and failure, no matter how dark the stairs or cold the floor. And what about your experience? Is One Won't Hurt a fantasy that promises ease and comfort, not to mention a mysterious ability to blur the line between fantasy and reality, a gift that grows stronger with each drink, drug, whatever? If I step on a track with real competition, I will never control the outcome. Not the way I did in those glorious fantasies. If I had been healthier, I would have let go of the victorious fantasies and just run my best, without being crippled by fear or what other people did or thought. Life on life's terms, they call it. That was something I did not get. Back when it might have helped. Oh well, it takes what it takes. How about you? Have you ever said F it and picked up the first drink, drug, whatever? Maybe even when you felt like you couldn't win. There is yet another connection between my struggles with bedwetting and anyone's struggle with the moment of relapse. Wishful thinking, whether it is I'm already at the imaginary toilet or One Won't Hurt, claims control I do not have. I will never be able to pee in an imaginary toilet and wake up dry. An addict/alcoholic/whatever will never be able to drink/drug/whatever without, sooner or later, losing control. And quitting in a track race that is not over just as surely as F it in a life that is not, in fact, over, rejects the control I do have. I could just run my best and see what happens. I could try any of those tools I turn my back on when I say F it, especially the ones that help me accept what I do not control, I may even be surprised to find there are things I do have control over if I will only look. Quitting. If you have not already, you might ask yourself this question now, dear reader. Quote, when I burped up my expletive and took the first whatever, did I really mean I quit? If not, we have 3 other meanings to go for your reading delight. 3 chapters worth. If so, in other words, if you do identify with quitting, if so, the next question becomes, well, what was I trying to do that I gave up on? And that leads to, well, if I really saw the futility of continuing to try, why reach for a fix? Why not just accept it as a fact and move on? Didn't W.C. Fields say, if at first you don't succeed, try again. Then quit. No use being a damn fool about it. I think he was an alcoholic, by the way. I don't think he got sober. The practical problem becomes how to know when to quit. How to quit wisely, even gracefully. And how to cope with the failure of my best efforts in a healthy way, not with a chemical/whatever fix. And what does the original 12-step program say about any of this? How does it offer help? Well, at first glance, the program seems oddly silent about quitting as such. The big book seems to go straight to the solution. It was not till the 3rd edition that we found the magnificent principle that, quote, acceptance is the answer to all my problems, unquote. However, the Serenity Prayer has been around almost from the beginning. Could you not translate it as, God, grant me the serenity to gracefully quit trying to control things I don't control. Courage to not quit when I do have control, as long as I'm not making things worse. And the wisdom to know the difference of when to quit and when to keep trying. Okay, W.C. Fields and the Serenity Prayer both said it better, but you get the point, I hope. And then there's the slogan, repeated at the end of virtually every 12-step meeting. Keep coming back to meetings, that is. Don't quit. Keep listening and learning till you learn how to accept things you don't control. Don't let yourself get so frustrated you say F it and drink over them. And even if you do, keep coming back. One slogan does counter the temptation to quit. Not sure how long it's been around or how widely used. Quote, don't give up before the miracle, unquote. Roughly translated, this is my translation. Don't quit using tools of healthy coping and say F it. Don't pick up your fix before those tools have had a chance to work. That's the end of my translation. I went to an open 12-step meeting on my old paper route in Saskatoon, Canada a few years ago. And I had an epiphany from something shared in that meeting. Someone said that his or her alcohol/drugs/whatever, quote, took me someplace I couldn't go by myself. The flash for me? 12-step meetings. The meetings themselves and these tools take me someplace I can't go by myself. Have you ever, even once, gone to a meeting feeling, as we say, restless, irritable, and discontented, only to come out feeling calm and relaxed? If so, you've been taken someplace you could not go by yourself, not yet anyway. You've had the living, breathing experience of being, quote, restored to sanity, unquote. What is the 24-hour plan, or one day at a time, if not a delaying tactic to help us not give up, for not saying F it and using whatever we use? No matter how much we hurt, no matter how frustrated we are, why call your sponsor when craving or upset if not to be talked off the ledge of giving up and giving in to your addiction? And then there's this quote, let us love you until you can love yourself. enough to use these tools and actually protect yourself from saying F it and picking up that fix. It looks like I've already covered both what AA says and how it helps. Unlike me, the founders were too nice to tell newcomers they were quitters. But some of you like to see a clear connection between problem and solution, between task and tool, and between an unfortunate tendency to throw in the towel with F it, and tools to keep going when life is not going your way. What do people say who get this, who see themselves quitting at the moment of relapse and see the need for tools of persistence? Well, things like, quote, I used my fix to check out, unquote, or, quote, alcohol, drugs, whatever was my crutch, unquote. One of my favorites, alcohol wasn't my problem, it was my solution. Perhaps I finally got it that my fix just made things worse. Or, another quote, all my problems were still there when I sobered up or came back down, unquote. And if they really do get it, you will see and hear them using the tools above. And what do people who don't get it? That when we say F it and pick up the first drink, drug, whatever, we are quitting. What do they say? The usual willpower stuff. I can set my mind, it's a conscious decision, yada, yada, yada. What they will not say is, help, or will you be my sponsor? Or, God, grant me the serenity. The same man who wrote Acceptance is the Answer later wrote a whole book called There is More to Quitting Drinking Than Quitting Drinking. Of course, no small part of the more is learning how and when to quit, to give up trying to control what we do not control, making peace with it and not needing to say F it and use. It also helps a lot to find the skills for using the control we do have. Don't ask me how I know. And that is the end of the chapter on quitting, the first of the 4 facts relating to the F it relapse, 4 facts that are actual experiences. And if you also have the experience of realizing it, then you are staring your solution right in the face. So I am going to end this and send it to YouTube.